Now, the Conservatives may face yet another by-election after MPs voted yesterday to suspend Peter Bone from the House of Commons for 6 weeks. The MP for Wellingborough was accused of bullying and harassing a member of his staff some 10 years ago. And with the suspension for 6 weeks, that could trigger a recall petition by constituents. The complainant at the centre of the case says Peter Bone's behaviour left him a broken shell. But the MP has always denied the accusations against him. Joining me right now, I'd like to say again, is James Heale, political correspondent at The Spectator. Good afternoon to you, James.
Afternoon, Julia.
We're making a habit of this. I'm loving this. We've also got Russell Quirk still in the studio. James, let's talk about this. We've just had a load of by-elections. Didn't go very, very well for the Tories. Huge, big majorities. Possibility of another one now. How likely is that, though?
Very likely. And I think that you've seen repeatedly when the standards bodies in the House of Commons suspend an MP for more than 10 days, you then get the chance to recall petition, and time and again, whether it's Chris Pincher, other cases, we've already seen you get these recall petitions being successful, and that therefore there will be a by-election. And we expect a by-election at the end of this year, maybe it's beginning of next year, depending on when the whips choose to move it. And I was talking to one Tory MP last night who said, it's already gone because 18,500 majority now, that is not a safe seat anymore in these times. And therefore the Tories look like to lose another one.
That's extraordinary, isn't it? That would have been considered a completely safe seat a few months ago, maybe a year ago, and now MPs are thinking about that. There's some talk that predictions of, massive majority, like 40 majority for the Labour Party, looking at these current predictions. Isn't there a 28-point lead for Keir Starmer's Labour right now in the latest poll?
Yeah, I've seen one on the front page of the Times today, which said that the Tories are 24 points and Labour's on 48. So, I mean, half of that lead, I mean, that's extraordinary figures, and certainly not how Rishi Sunak would want to mark his first year in power.
No.
And I think that really what it shows is that in the current climate, the Tories can't take anywhere for granted. Also, voters have shown increasingly sophistication in terms of tactical voting against the Conservatives. And so last time, I think the Labour won about 27% there in this Wellingborough seat, to take this one example. And next time, you'd expect all the Lib Dems, all the anti-Tory vote to coalesce around that Labour candidate and ensure that they win the by-election.
Yeah, and again, even when we've seen the Labour and the Lib Dems in one of the seats we had recently, not actually doing the whole, OK, we'll stay quiet while you win the seat. We did still see Labour win the seat. Peter Bone, it has to be said, has denied all these allegations. He's not gone through a court of law. There's been some big question marks about some of these committees dealing with, particularly these historical cases. This is over 10 years old, these allegations. And, I have to say, we've had Peter Bone on the show many, many times. These allegations are pretty serious against him. I've got some big question marks there about people basically losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods on the basis of these allegations, these very long queries and long investigations. And often we find from the people accused, they feel they haven't had a proper right of reply.
Yeah, I think that is a certain criticism which they've tried to address in terms of how these watchdogs work and how the panels work. And I think actually one of the criticisms of looking at this whole case over the past 10 years is how the Conservative Party and Parliament have both changed their complaints processes over that time. And so things have fallen through the gaps, such as this complaint. Perhaps if this had been dealt with earlier under a previous system, there might have been a different outcome. But we are where we are now, and I'll be interested to see what comes of it.
Indeed. Let me also ask you about Tim Davie. He's the Director General of the BBC. He met with Tory MPs, the Backbench Committee we heard so much about over recent years, the 1922 Committee, talking about the BBC's coverage of Israel Gaza. He got quite a mauling from a lot of MPs, and they're very disappointed in the BBC. A lot of anger, though, now from people saying, what the hell was he doing having a closed-door meeting with Tory MPs? He should have been answering questions from the cross-party Digital Culture Select Committee.
Yeah, I mean, there is a certain precedent here. At the height of the Falklands War, the BBC was very criticised in 1982. Alistair Milne, the Director General, addressed the 1922 committee, and that ended in a shouting match, a slanging match between back and forth outraged Tory backbenchers who were accusing, the BBC of both siding this argument and saying the British soldiers rather than our boys, etc. So it didn't go as badly as that last night. But I agree. I don't really understand why Tim Davie would subject himself to this, given he doesn't have the protections of the cross-party select committee. So why he'd want to go with the men in grey suits of the 1922 committee is beyond me. But as so often, Julia, the workings of the BBC management are not in my capacity.
Yeah, indeed. I just finally must talk about Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor. She's got a new book out. I'm sure it's going to be a great bestseller. It's called The Women Who Made Modern Economics. She, of course, is a former economist at the Bank of England. She's been accused of widespread plagiarism, basically cutting and pasting from Wikipedia. We've all done that.
Yes, I mean, this is a new book and it's talking about women and their role in economics over economic history, the past 200 years or so. And of course, really the book is about attributing credit for others' efforts. So there's a certain irony today in the Financial Times that 20 cases they've identified of this. Now, Rachel Reeves' spokesperson has come out and said, oh, well, it wasn't deliberate. There are inadvertent mistakes. They'll be changed. But I'm not sure, given the researchers involved in this, whether you'd want to hire them again.
It's not a good look. And also the fact that this was identified by the Financial Times and they're desperately trying to woo business leaders. It's just not a good look. James Heale, absolute pleasure to have you join us once again. Thank you so much. He's a political correspondent at The Spectator.